I've been using a bread machine to make my own bread for over 10 years. I'll give you the basic knowledge about making bread in a bread machine so that you can successfully make your own bread. I'll be making 100% whole wheat bread. It's my own recipe, and the recipe will be in the box below the video. All the ingredients should be at room temperature. I'll be using King Arthur 100% whole grain white whole wheat flour. Whole wheat flour has a low gluten content. Gluten is the substance that makes air bubbles in the bread and allows it to rise. Always store your yeast in the refrigerator. It does have a lifespan. Add the wet ingredients to the bread pan first. Next, add the dry ingredients, excluding the yeast. I'm going to measure my flour by just scooping it out and pressing the measuring cup against the bag. The correct way to measure flour is to spoon it into the measuring cup and then take a knife and scrape it over the top. Make an indentation in the flour and add your yeast to it. This step is most important if you're using a delay to start the bread machine. If the salt and the yeast are combined for a long period of time, the salt will harm the yeast. Drop the bread pan into the bread machine. Select the correct bake cycle. I'll be using the whole wheat cycle. Whole wheat bread takes a longer time to rise. For bread using white flour, use the basic setting. Select the crust color and then start. The first 10 minutes of the bread cycle is most important. I recommend that you monitor the mixing process to ensure that you have the proper amount of moisture. If the mixture is too dry, the bread will be crumbly, and if it's too wet, it won't rise. I found that during the initial mix that the bread machine doesn't always get all the flour off the side of the pan. So I always give the flour a push down. You can also give the dough ball a push here and there and help the bread machine combine all the ingredients. After about 3 or 4 minutes into the mix cycle, the dry ingredients should be starting to incorporate into the ball. If they're not, you'll probably need to add a little bit of water. I would recommend adding a tablespoon at a time. After about 5 minutes into the mix cycle, the dough ball should look like this one. It'll be a little rough on the edges, but all the flour should be incorporated. It shouldn't be too sticky. If the dough sticks to your finger, you probably need to add a little bit of flour. I would add perhaps a tablespoon at a time. The initial 10-minute mix has just completed. The dough ball should look something like this one. If you put your finger on it, it should feel slightly tacky. I recommend removing the mixing paddle. Check the owner's manual and find the time that the last rise begins. Remove the paddle when the bread's finished baking. Remove the pan from the bread machine. Remove the bread from the pan. Cool it on a wire rack for about an hour. I hope you found this video helpful. Click on my channel name for other helpful videos. A thumbs up is always appreciated. And thanks for watching.